Kendall looked like she had everything: beauty, charm, fame, and even rumors of royal blood running through her family. On screen, she dazzled audiences with effortless elegance and laughter that seemed completely genuine. But behind that glamorous image was a secret quietly destroying her life. Friends later said Kay joked through her pain so convincingly that almost nobody realized how much she was hiding. To the public, she seemed born for stardom. In reality, tragedy had been closing in on her for years. Kendall was born Justine Kendall McCarthy in May 1927 in the seaside town of Withernsea, England, far removed from the glamour of Hollywood that would later define her image. She grew up inside Stanley House, surrounded by a family deeply connected to show business. Her father, Terence "Terry" McCarthy, worked as a vaudeville performer under the stage name Terry Kendall, but even he was overshadowed by the family's most famous entertainer, Kay's grandmother, Marie Kendall. Marie Kendall had been a legendary music hall star with decades of experience on stage, and her success cast a long shadow over the family. From the beginning, there was an unspoken expectation that Kay would eventually follow the same path into entertainment. But her childhood was far from stable. For reasons that were never fully explained, Kay spent much of her early life moving between different schools across England and Scotland. She attended St. Leonard's in Brighton, later studied near Oban in Scotland, and eventually ended up at the Lydia Kiasht Dancing Academy in London. The constant movement made her early years feel unsettled, but it was also where her natural talent finally began to stand out. By the age of 12, Kay already carried herself with a maturity far beyond her years. People often remarked that she looked older than she actually was and possessed a sharp confidence mixed with playful attitude. Those qualities quickly helped her land work as a chorus girl, while also earning a place at the prestigious Rank Charm School, a training ground designed to transform young women into future film stars. At first, it looked like Kay Kendall's rise to fame was inevitable. Under the guidance of the powerful Rank organization, she began appearing in small roles throughout British films while still a teenager. Even in tiny parts, however, Kay had a way of standing out. She was tall, elegant, funny, and impossible to completely ignore on screen. By the time she reached 19 years old, the studio believed they had discovered their next major star and decided it was finally time to push her into leading roles. But almost immediately, things began going wrong. The Rank organization believed Kay Kendall was ready to become Britain's next major film star, so they handed her a leading role in the ambitious musical film London Town, also known as My Heart Goes Crazy. Directed by Wesley Ruggles, the movie was supposed to be Kay's big breakthrough. If it succeeded, Rank planned to reward her with a major 5-year contract that could have launched her straight into the top tier of British cinema. And the opportunities waiting behind the film were even bigger than most people realized. According to later rumors, producers Sidney Gilliat and Frank Launder were reportedly considering Kay for the lead role in the future classic, The Blue Lagoon. But only if London Town proved she could carry a major production. Unfortunately, that success never came. When London Town premiered, Kay was initially thrilled to see her name prominently featured in the promotion and credits. For a young actress chasing stardom, it felt like the moment her entire life had been building toward. But almost immediately, excitement turned into humiliation. The film had been made with an enormous budget, and expectations were sky high. But critics tore it apart. Reviews called the movie tacky and tasteless, while audiences showed little interest at all. Instead of becoming a glamorous launchpad for Kay Kendall's career, London Town collapsed into one of the biggest disasters in British film history. The movie failed so badly that it became infamous across the industry. Rather than making Kay a star, it attached her name to what many later described as one of British cinema's most notorious flops. The film lost a fortune, embarrassed the Rank organization, and instantly damaged the momentum of her rising career. For Kay, the failure was devastating. She had been positioned as the future of British film, only to watch her first major opportunity sink almost overnight. Instead of entering Hollywood-style stardom, she suddenly found herself associated with failure before her career had even properly begun. Before London Town was released, Kendall had been treated like Britain's next major star. The studio promoted her heavily. She attended glamorous events, signed autographs, and suddenly found herself surrounded by the excitement of rising fame. For a brief moment, it looked as though her future in film was guaranteed. Then the movie collapsed, and almost overnight, everything disappeared. Years later, Kay bitterly remembered how quickly the attention vanished. As she put it, there were suddenly no more bazaars to open, no more premieres, no more autographs. The humiliation hit her hard. Despite her natural screen presence and charm, Kay privately knew she was not a particularly strong singer or dancer, and after the disaster of London Town, she seriously considered walking away from show business entirely. For nearly 4 years, she stayed away from major film work, and when she finally returned, the industry did not exactly welcome her back warmly. With the failure of London Town still attached to her name, Kay had little choice but to accept whatever roles she could find. That meant appearing in smaller productions like Happy Go Lovely and Lady Godiva Rides Again, films that did little to restore her reputation, but at least kept her career alive. Slowly, however, Kay began rebuilding herself. Audiences started noticing something different about her as she re-emerged on screen. There were whispers that she had subtly altered her appearance, with some gossiping about changes to her nose and overall look. Whether true or not, Kay suddenly appeared more polished, glamorous, and sophisticated than before. Studios increasingly cast her as the elegant, beautiful companion to leading men, roles that leaned heavily into her striking appearance and effortless charm. Off-screen, Kay also became extremely skilled at keeping herself in the public eye. Alongside her acting work, she attracted constant tabloid attention through a string of highly publicized romances and flirtations with famous men. While her talent and comedic timing helped her steadily climb back into the industry, her glamorous social life kept gossip columns fascinated with her. In many ways, Kay understood that in post-war British cinema, staying famous often mattered just as much as acting ability itself. Early in her rise through British cinema, Kendall found herself connected to Hollywood royalty through her relationship with Sidney Chaplin, the son of legendary silent film icon Charlie Chaplin and actress Lita Grey. Very little is known publicly about their relationship, but it placed Kay directly inside the glamorous world of celebrity dynasties long before she became a major star herself. Still, according to rumors that followed her throughout the 1950s, Kay seemed fascinated not just by Hollywood fame, but by actual aristocracy and royalty as well. Over the years, gossip columns frequently linked her to wealthy and titled men, including reports of romances with a mysterious Swedish prince. Whether all the stories were true remains unclear, but Kay's beauty, wit, and sophisticated charm made her one of the most talked-about actresses in British high society at the time. One rumor in particular caused enormous attention. For years, whispers circulated connecting Kay romantically to Prince Philip before his marriage to Queen Elizabeth II. Nothing was ever confirmed publicly, but the rumors alone were enough to fuel endless fascination around her private life. At the same time, Kay's relationships were not limited to aristocrats and royalty. She also reportedly had an affair with James Sainsbury, heir to the wealthy Sainsbury family fortune. According to stories from people around her, Kay jokingly referred to him as her little butcher boy, a playful nod to the family's grocery empire. But while tabloids obsessed over her romantic life, Kay was quietly rebuilding something even more important: her acting career. After years spent recovering from the humiliation of London Town, she finally began earning serious respect again. In 1952, Kay landed a strong supporting role in the British drama It Started in Paradise. Even though she was not the main star, her performance stood out enough to impress executives at the Rank organization, who once again saw major potential in her. This time, the opportunity they offered would completely change her life. Kendall's strong performance in It Started in Paradise finally gave her another real chance after the humiliation of London Town. Soon afterward, she landed her first major starring role in years in the 1953 comedy Genevieve, directed by Henry Cornelius and co-starring Dinah Sheridan and John Gregson. The film turned out to be exactly what Kay needed. For the first time, audiences fully saw the unusual combination that made her different from other actresses of the era. She was glamorous and flirtatious, but also deeply funny and willing to make herself look ridiculous for a joke. Kay mixed elegance with physical comedy in a way that felt fresh and unpredictable. One moment she could look sophisticated and seductive, and the next she would be pulling exaggerated facial expressions or throwing herself into slapstick humor without hesitation. Not everyone appreciated that style. Some conservative critics were uncomfortable with the playful, teasing energy she brought to the role. The Catholic Times even criticized her performance using words like unsavory and smut. But audiences completely ignored those complaints. Genevieve became a major success and finally revived Kendall's career. Viewers adored her self-deprecating humor and the fact that she refused to behave like a perfectly polished, ladylike movie star. She had a rare ability to make audiences laugh without losing her elegance or charm. Even when performing broad physical comedy, she somehow still seemed sophisticated. That unique balance quickly became her trademark. Unlike many comedic actresses at the time, Kay never appeared crude or vulgar on screen. Instead, she created a persona that many people described as an elegant eccentric. With her distinctive voice, expressive face, and slightly mischievous energy, she could shift effortlessly from glamour to comedy within seconds. But behind the scenes, her comeback was not entirely glamorous. According to later stories, director Henry Cornelius became aggressively flirtatious toward Kay during filming. Some reports even claimed she wore a whistle around her neck on set, in case she ever found herself alone with him. Whether exaggerated or not, the rumors reflected the uncomfortable reality many actresses faced behind the scenes during that era of filmmaking. Still, despite the tension and pressure, Genevieve transformed Kendall from a failed starlet into one of Britain's most beloved actresses almost overnight. Even after the huge success of Genevieve, Kendall still struggled to break into Hollywood. She remained tied to the Rank organization, which controlled nearly every step of her career and often placed her in films she had little enthusiasm for. Instead of immediately turning her into an international star, the studio continued assigning her to lower-budget British productions that failed to fully use her talent. One of those projects was the drama The Square Ring. The film gave Kay very little opportunity to showcase the sharp comedic timing that audiences had fallen in love with in Genevieve. But according to Kay herself, the biggest problem was not the script. It was the way the studio presented her. She later joked that the wig chosen for her role made her look like Danny Kaye in drag. Thankfully, her momentum did not completely disappear. Soon afterward, Kay returned to comedy with a major role in Doctor in the House, another successful British hit that reminded audiences why she had become so popular in the first place. By then, she had started becoming far more selective about the projects she accepted. After surviving the humiliation of London Town years earlier, Kay was terrified of taking another role that could damage her career again. Even while under contract with Rank, she reportedly turned down projects she believed were weak or badly suited for her image. But there was one thing that could still convince her to say yes to a movie: the right co-star. That became especially true in 1955 when she landed a major role in The Constant Husband, alongside Rex Harrison. Off-screen, however, the film quickly became far more complicated than anyone expected. During production, Kay and Rex Harrison reportedly began a passionate affair behind the scenes. The chemistry between them became impossible to ignore, and for Kay, the relationship felt exciting, glamorous, and deeply emotional. There was just one major problem. Rex Harrison was already married. By 1955, Kendall had become one of the most glamorous and talked-about actresses in British cinema. Beautiful, witty, and constantly appearing in gossip columns, she was considered one of the industry's most desirable single stars. But the man she had fallen for, Rex Harrison, was far from available. At the time, Harrison was still married to actress Lily Palmer, even as his relationship with Kay grew increasingly serious behind the scenes. The affair quickly became one of the worst-kept secrets in British film circles, creating a complicated and emotionally charged love triangle that would eventually shape the rest of Kay's life. Professionally, however, her career was finally reaching international heights. After years of rebuilding her reputation, Kay landed her Hollywood breakthrough in Less Girls, directed by legendary filmmaker George Cukor. Starring alongside major Hollywood names like Gene Kelly and Mitzi Gaynor, the film gave Kay the perfect opportunity to showcase the exact qualities that made her unique. The movie blended glamour, comedy, flirtation, and musical performance, all areas where Kay naturally excelled. Ironically, Less Girls became another large-scale production that struggled financially despite strong reviews and audience praise. Much like London Town years earlier, the film reportedly failed to fully recover its expensive budget at the box office. But this time, the outcome for Kay was completely different. Instead of damaging her reputation, the movie turned her into an international sensation. American audiences were immediately captivated by her unusual charm and comedic timing. Even surrounded by huge stars like Gene Kelly, Kay somehow managed to steal attention with her hilarious and wildly entertaining performance of Habanera. Critics praised her ability to combine elegance with comedy in a way that felt effortless and completely original. For the first time, Hollywood truly noticed her. In 1958, largely because of her performance in Less Girls, Kay won the Golden Globe Awards for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, a massive achievement that finally confirmed she had become more than just a British starlet. And strangely enough, she had almost never been cast in the movie at all. Before filming Less Girls, Kendall unexpectedly began having doubts about the project. For reasons that were never fully explained, she initially signaled that she might not want to appear in the film at all. The uncertainty became serious enough that producers reportedly started testing other actresses for the role in case Kay walked away. In the end, she accepted the part, and the decision would completely change her career. But by that point, Kay's attention seemed increasingly focused on her personal life rather than Hollywood ambition. Her relationship with Rex Harrison had grown far more serious after years of secrecy and scandal. Harrison had essentially drifted away from his marriage to Lily Palmer, and to many people around them, Rex and Kay already behaved more like husband and wife than he and Palmer did. The problem was that Kay no longer wanted to remain the hidden partner in the relationship. She wanted Harrison to officially leave his marriage and make their relationship public once and for all. Friends and insiders later described the situation as emotionally explosive. By the late 1950s, their affair was already an open secret throughout British film circles, partly because Kay had become increasingly vocal and emotional about wanting commitment. According to rumors from the time, conversations about marriage often triggered dramatic arguments between the couple. Some stories even claimed Kay would become so frustrated during fights that she smashed plates in restaurants or at social gatherings before later reconciling passionately with Harrison afterward. Their relationship was intense, emotional, and deeply unstable, fueled equally by attraction and frustration. Under different circumstances, The affair might eventually have burned itself out. But in early 1957, everything suddenly changed after a devastating doctor's appointment. One day, Kay's doctor privately contacted Rex Harrison and urgently asked him to come in for a serious conversation. Harrison reportedly had no idea why the doctor wanted to see him, but that meeting would soon lead to one of the most heartbreaking twists in Hollywood history. For years, Kendall believed she simply suffered from anemia. She often felt weak and exhausted, but nothing initially seemed serious enough to alarm her. Then, during one of her routine blood tests in early 1957, doctors discovered something devastating. Kay had leukemia. Instead of telling her directly, however, the doctor made a shocking decision. He contacted Rex Harrison privately and asked him to come in for a confidential conversation. There, Harrison was told that Kay was terminally ill and likely did not have long to live. The news reportedly left him stunned. According to later accounts, the doctor asked Harrison whether Kay had close family members who could support her. Still in shock, Harrison allegedly replied that although Kay had a sister, Kendall, she did not have family she was truly close to. Years later, Kim reportedly never forgave Harrison for saying that. But what happened next became even more controversial. Believing Harrison would now become responsible for Kay's care, the doctor advised him not to tell her about the leukemia diagnosis. Astonishingly, Harrison agreed. From that moment on, Kay continued living her life without officially knowing she was dying. At least, no one ever told her directly. Over the years, many people criticized the decision to keep such devastating information from her, especially since Harrison later openly discussed the experience publicly. The situation eventually inspired playwright Terence Rattigan to create the play In Praise of Love, and Harrison himself later starred in it, reopening controversy surrounding the secrecy. Meanwhile, Kay remained unaware of the full truth. Shortly after learning about her illness, Harrison divorced Lily Palmer and married Kay. On the surface, it looked like a glamorous Hollywood love story finally reaching its happy ending. The newlyweds even appeared together in The Reluctant Debutante shortly afterward. But behind the romance was a terrible secret Harrison continued carrying alone. As Kay's health slowly worsened, she reportedly remained unaware that the exhaustion and sickness she battled were symptoms of a terminal disease. And for many people looking back at the story later, the most heartbreaking part was not just the illness itself, but the fact that the woman at the center of it all was forced to live her final years inside a beautiful lie. As Kendall's leukemia rapidly worsened, her health began declining more noticeably. She suffered frequent dizzy spells, exhaustion, and periods of weakness that became harder and harder to ignore. Yet throughout it all, Rex Harrison continued insisting that her problems were simply caused by anemia. Even when Kay required repeated blood transfusions, Harrison kept the devastating truth hidden from her. At least publicly, he never admitted otherwise. As controversial as his decision later became, people close to the couple believed Harrison genuinely loved her deeply. But carrying the secret alone was slowly destroying him too. Eventually, unable to handle the emotional burden by himself, he confided in one of Kay's closest friends, Dirk Bogarde. Bogarde had known Kay for years after the two became close while working together during the 1950s. When Harrison revealed that Kay was dying, Bogarde was reportedly stunned, but almost immediately, another thought began forming in his mind. He started wondering if Kay already knew. Bogarde understood better than almost anyone how talented Kay was as an actress. She always maintained a brave, cheerful front no matter how sick she felt, rarely behaving as though her condition terrified her. Over time, Bogarde became increasingly convinced that Harrison was not the only person hiding the truth. He believed Kay herself may have quietly realized she was terminally ill all along. Some later speculated that she stayed in denial because the reality was too painful to fully confront. Others believed something even sadder, that Kay understood Harrison was trying to protect her, and in return she pretended not to know in order to protect him as well. It created a heartbreaking cycle where both husband and wife may have been hiding the same truth from each other out of love. But no amount of denial, love, or secrecy could stop what was happening. In late 1959, Kendall died at just 32 years old. Shortly after her death, her final film, Once More with Feeling, was released, allowing audiences to see her charm and brilliance one last time. Many fans were left devastated not only by her death, but by the realization of how much potential had been lost. Just as Kay's career seemed to be reaching a new level, her life was suddenly cut short. Even today, she remains remembered as one of British cinema's most unique stars, glamorous, funny, elegant, and deeply tragic beneath the surface. She was buried at St. John at Hampstead Church in London, where her gravestone carries a simple inscription, Kate/deeply loved wife of/Rex. Even though her life was tragically short, she left behind one of the most unforgettable legacies in British cinema, a star who could make audiences laugh while quietly hiding immense pain behind the scenes. But after hearing her story, do you think Kendall truly knew the truth about her illness all along? Or was she really kept in the dark until the very end? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more untold Hollywood stories and tragic celebrity secrets.